Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This one we are painting the camper shell and I am so excited because it has just been looking not great, and it does match the truck pretty well in terms of like white and my gold truck, but we're gonna go similar to the headliner. We're gonna go a little groovy. I've already sanded everything. The other side looks a little bit more sanded, but that's because for some reason that side they painted over something. I don't know what, but this was a little bit more even. I think that actually might be the real color. But first I need to wipe everything down, get all the dust off, because I did the sanding a couple weeks ago, and while I did clean it after it's been a couple weeks and it is so windy and there's a lot of pollen and dust that's settled on the truck shell, I can't fully hose it down because there's still a couple leaks that I haven't taken care of, and I've already installed the subfloor to the drawer system. So we're gonna kind of do light water so that it doesn't really stream in. And even though I have sealed the subfloor, I just want to reduce as much water that gets on it as possible. Alright, so after washing, I followed up with mineral spirits just to get kind of the last little bit of dust and sanded off paint. And I didn't show the can, but then after I put some acetone on a rag just to fully dry everything off, because mineral spirits has this kind of oily feeling, and then of course went through the very laborious task of taping everything off. And I do not subject you guys to watch. Really took forever. They say that the act of painting is 90% prep, and actually painting is that last 10%, if not maybe even less than that. It could probably be more like 2 to 5% of the process of painting something. Those rounded edges were really what took the longest, and as you can see, there's 3 windows on each side, not including the back window that has a very large curve on the top corners. If you have a space that you can paint something covered, I completely recommend you do that, because through the, I believe it was 3 total coats, I painted here. As you can see, I'm under a tree, and I also live in a pretty agricultural area. And this was springtime, and it was definitely just raining pollen, and I tried to do it on days that wasn't too windy, but I live in a valley and just wind is a little unavoidable. But for the most part, I was able to get the paint on, especially on the sides. The sides didn't really get anything stuck to it, but the top of it got some little bits stuck in the paint. I found that the finish from the foam roller was amazing. It was very soft and definitely something I would have preferred to do all over, but in these smaller areas, I was really just stuck with using a brush because the foam, I didn't really want to spend a bunch of money on all the different sizes of foam rollers, so the brush was kind of the move there. Then at the end of the day, if I do need to retouch it and I only use a brush, it will kind of blend together. As you can tell, it is very similar to the original color, but it's a kind of creamy white, kind of the vintage style cream white is what I was going for. Alright, so the first coat is finished. I am going to quickly do the second coat. I've let it dry. But I won't film that because it's all the same. As you'll be able to tell in this video, much like I do most things in my personal projects, I don't tend to go in order of what most other people would do. You probably would have painted the trim before moving on to getting a roof rack installed, but sometimes you just need that instant gratification of getting something done, and that's exactly what I needed. So this is a Van Tech roof rack. I don't have any roof rails, and I don't plan on putting anything heavy on this, but I do want a little extra storage on top of my camper. So this particular shell is actually double. There's like 2 layers of fiberglass with insulation in between, so I do think this is a bit of a firmer and like more sturdy fiberglass camper shell. So I wouldn't recommend doing this on every single shell. Some are also built to have those kinds of rails on. I just followed the instructions for this. The only thing I will note is that it was really difficult to figure out the distance between, like, that I needed to have those rails. And I did end up installing a Thule. Oh, there's Shasta. I forgot she was in this clip. There's, I think it's like 3 feet, 36 inches is the max distance to install a Thule roof box, or most of those standard roof boxes. I think I made this 38 inches, so I had to drill a couple holes into it, which wasn't a big deal, but I would say to try to stick between 24 and 36 inches between the rails. I think I did 36 inches between the base of the rack, which is obviously incorrect. Also, this comes with, you see me kind of poking holes through this little foam gasket thing. That does nothing to actually seal it. As I find out later, you do still want to put some sort of sealant under it and around the bolts, because water will get through. I don't know if it's supposed to be kind of just to cushion the paint, but it doesn't do anything. This next part is actually an add-on. These racks come with a very clean end cap, but I was just paranoid. I didn't want something to slide off. You guys know my past with things falling off my truck. So I think it was an extra like $30 to get these. I think they're like the ladder rack ends. And it just adds a little bit extra peace of mind that nothing is just gonna slide right off. And of course there's that rubber seal you saw me put on top of the rack at the very beginning of this, but yeah, I definitely recommend those little pieces. Okay, so even though I'm using a spray paint, I am going to use a little foam brush and like paint it on because I just don't want to tarp everything off. Go get your bowl. Closer. So I'm gonna try this and see what the finish is, and if it looks really bad, then I'll tarp everything off. But if this looks good, then I'd save myself a bunch of time just doing prep work. So I'm really happy I had one of these little ones. Oh, sorry, Shasta. So this method worked really, really well, especially, I mean, this was a $100 camper shell or $150, I forget, it's been so long, but I didn't really feel like I had to be so perfect, but doing this with a foam brush and spray paint is a little bit more runny, so it does go on just pretty thin, and I didn't have to do all the prep work outside of taping. That is really the bane of my existence when it comes to painting. I love the act of painting. There's Shasta's collar right there. I love the act of painting, but it's just all that prep work that really sucks. Yeah, you can see I got a little bit too much in the foam brush that dripped down, but that was a very easy thing to paint right over. I didn't use all of the paint to paint the exterior, so I have some extra that I can go back and touch up. Now this part where I had to refill the cup, I had to do this many times because the paint was just kind of evaporating and drying out, and that was the messiest step. As I don't know if you can tell, but my hands are black from the overspray that was the process of trying to get the paint into the cup, and that stayed on my hands for probably about a week, especially like my nails. It really just kind of stained my hands. Now, when I got this camper shell, it did go through a couple rains, which I would recommend if you do get a camper shell, just to see where it does leak. And of course, it leaked through the windows. I did not really feel like it was necessary to go through the whole process of taking out the windows, putting new butyl tape in and new gaskets and doing that, because once again, this is a $150 camper shell, and this is also the kind of in-between camp setup for me, then the next one will definitely be a slide-in camper that I can stand up in. So I just didn't feel the need to spend all that extra money and extra time getting these windows extremely waterproof. And after the fact, after all of this, I figured out that the windows do still leak, but they leak in the vent part of the window. Those side window, the two side windows at the very back, those don't leak at all. So I am not concerned about the ceiling around it, but in the case of the sliding windows, they do drip through the slide a bit. The only thing better than one rack is two roof racks. So I got this universal drip, like rain gutter drip, whatever that is, on my truck. A lot of those rack for it. I think this one was only yeah, so as you can see, there's this little like drip gutter thing that my truck has, and that is exactly where these things clamp onto. This entire process, probably outside of the painting, the actual install took me less than 30 minutes. It was so quick. If you have an older truck like this, I highly recommend this rack. The only thing is that the rack does have really bad wind noise when you're driving. I notice it mostly around 60 miles per hour, and then it seems to kind of go away around 70. I'm planning on getting a roof basket that has a windscreen on it, and that should help with the wind noise, hopefully. The cross beams are adjustable, and you just tighten it up to the proper So this next part of the exterior upgrades of my truck is not at all functional. It is entirely for looks. That's one thing I was honestly a little bummed about when I got this truck, that it didn't have the 4x4 off-road sticker, decal, like every other Ford 4x4 truck has. I ended up going to the other side because that one had the gas inlets, so I wanted to just make sure that they were positioned the same way on both sides. It was actually very simple to line up because of those lines in the body. And I just moved the tape around to where the sides and top and bottom should go. And I just used an old gift card to press all the bubbles out so that it was fully flat. And the last exterior upgrade to my truck camper setup is a swing hitch. I'm planning on putting a spare tire on the back of the truck. I just haven't gotten around to that yet, but I wanted to install the swing hitch. I got this, I think it's a Yakima one. I can't obviously see the name of it from the footage and I haven't looked at it in a while. But I got this for like $200 on Amazon. There's that section where you can buy a secondhand or used like open box item, and yeah, all the parts were there. It was all completely fine and fully functional, and another super quick install, just reading the instructions and putting the parts where they needed to go. This one, I didn't know that these came with a lock so that no one can steal them, so I bought one separately, but I just decided to keep that separate hitch lock in case I need it for something else because it was only like $15, but this Yakima swing hitch already comes with one if you were curious. So this swing hitch holds, I believe, 250 pounds, so that's plenty for the spare tire attachment and the actual spare tire. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching me transform my $150 truck shell cap to what it is now. Outside of the dirt, I'd say it looks pretty good. I am pretty set with how it is. There's a couple extra things I'm probably going to add, and that will be in its own video when that happens. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Also, if you've made it to this point, please like the video. I have a Patreon if you'd like to support me in other ways. There will be more videos coming. There's exclusive content that I share on Patreon, and you also get kind of more one-on-one access with me, asking me questions, stuff like that. All the products I used for this and all the rest of the truck build is in an Amazon list, so that is all linked down below, and I'll see you guys next time.